My name is Moj. Who I am is so many things. Iranian American, first generation, queer, homo, non-binary, parent. I'm married for a long time. Although it seems like a long time, short time. I've known my wife for like over 20 some odd years. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a founder. I'm an investor. I'm an advocate. I'm an activist. I'm a coalition builder. I'm a community organizer. I'm like just a human being who is trying to just make my way in this very, 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 very weird world. I do this anyways, regardless of whether or not you're going to listen. So I'll be having these conversations. I have these conversations all day, every day. I've probably interviewed, I don't know, 400 or 500 people in my life. I've interviewed famous people, not famous people, respected people, not respected people. But I just like talking to people. I like being on a learning safari. I like changing my mind. I like people who push me to think about things differently. And my brain is like hungry for information at all times, which I think traumatized people like have an obsession with information and are hypervigilant. So you are like always trying to like learn more information because you're always trying to understand your own existence. And so I am on a permanent state of trying to understand who the fuck I am and why the fuck I am. Therefore, I read voraciously, have voracious conversations. I have a lot of courageous conversations. Every single conversation leaves a deep imprint on me. And so everyone's always told me to do this, and I've avoided doing it for a very long time, but now seems like the exact perfect time to do it. I have always been interested in justice. I don't know, I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. I grew up around a multicultural neighborhood and people. And it's hard to live in America and not be present to like social and racial injustices. And I think very few communities are welcoming to Iranians who at the time were being portrayed as terrorists and people who take American hostages. So, you know, I've always felt safe and comfortable and welcome within Black communities and minority communities and South Asian communities. And so, yeah, activism. Yeah, the people I looked up to were always activists. I was like extremely inspired by Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Harriet Tubman. I mean, I think I've read like 40 million books about Harriet Tubman. I thought she was like so incredible and brave and courageous and spiritual and ahead of her time and a futurist. And I've just always been interested in people that were brave enough to dream of a world that didn't exist in their lifetime, but were courageous enough to like say it and wish it. And so I don't know if I was like an activist at that time, but having big questions around society have always been like a function of who I am.
Yes, I do. As a mom always remember everything. Always outside of the classroom because she could not be there to the level even the older kids. She wants to do more. So I will ask her teacher why. She said because she's just want to do so much more than anybody else. Even the younger, I mean older kids, 5-year-old, and she was only 3.
I am a revolution child. I am the child of a revolution. Like, I am here in this country because of an Islamic Republic revolution. I, for all intents purposes, should be living in a country named Iran that is governed by whether it's a democracy or monarchy or some version of that. But yeah, no, my parents' country imploded. And so therefore, you know, I'm like an exiled person. And so I guess that experience does frame, yeah, it does frame everything. It actually frames, now I'm learning that it's like actually framed a huge part of who I am because it's a trauma. It's a big ass trauma. And it's a scary, complicated trauma. And like all traumas happen, a lot of traumas that happen are secrets. And there are things that other people don't understand or you don't talk about. And so I've kind of been on a journey over the past like 4 years of like depersonalizing my traumas and not being afraid of them and thinking about them as like something quite interesting and beautiful. And I think a lot of people are in the diaspora. I think there's a lot of people who are first and second generation. I think a lot of people are traumatized by their past and experiences. And I think The worst thing that we can possibly do is not talk about these things.
That's why I left the country at a young age, at 16. At that time, almost 53 years ago, then fighting my father and a family to get out at the age of 16. You know why? Because I want to be free.
Yeah, my parents they came here in the early 70s, get an American dream, education, drive a Mustang, smoke weed, listen to Pink Floyd. And they came as scholars and academics that our country recruited at the time, and they loved it. They loved America. They thought America was like the coolest thing ever. My mom's family was super progressive and sent all of their daughters to come and get an education. And my mom's a real smarty pants. She has a degree in chemistry, but she's a real estate wizard and she crushes business. My dad's a chemical engineer. He also crushes business.
Well, we had a trip. I went to Iran for my brother's wedding in 91. And that was a horrible experience for them. And I feel like, oh God, there was a drama for Moj and my other daughter, Mona. She was almost 13 and Mona was 10. And they had a horrible experience. I did the same thing. I was free person when I left the country when I was 16 and we went back, and dealing with these people are just like, we don't know these people, where they come from, why they're acting like that. And they arrest them at the middle of the night because they were giving right to my sister. uh, it was just like 5 miles away from my house, because they were with their cousin, the male cousin. They arrest them and naming them bad word, because they're out with their cousin and they had to call me. I have to go there and confront with them in the middle of nowhere. And it was such a disaster experience for them and for me. They beat me up very badly. I was bruised because I was outspoken, calling them their name. I mean, I was shocked to see my two kids have been arrested for nothing. And so it was a horrible experience. From that point on, believe me, I mean, I was, to begin with, when I left the country, even doing the Shahs, which was fully free country, but I was very different. I want more. I wanted to do more and see more. But when I saw that, I just want to make sure my kids never ever have to deal with these kind of people ever again, and then educate them. And right and left, any information I have, I give it to them. When anybody's talking, I let them know what's going on. So it was a horrible experience for them.
I, for better or for worse, emancipated from my parents. For all intents and purposes, I took legal guardianship of myself. So I've been on my own for a really long time. I'm like an everything dropout. I'm like a college dropout, high school dropout. Like I'm just full blown dropout, which actually was like pretty heartbreaking and sad for me, because I really always had fantasies of like going to school and having the experience of like educational systems. But when you're poor and broke and you don't have any access to, like, I didn't even really know anyone that could help me. So I just started working. So yeah, I struggled. I've done everything: food delivery, coffee shops, thrift stores, computer stores. I've cleaned warehouses. I've managed warehouses. I've done like every single vocational menial job that I can think of, and actually never really was bummed about it. Actually always really enjoyed it. I actually felt very proud of the fact that I could do those types of things. My parents started a bunch of companies growing up, so like I always knew like what starting a company meant. Because I didn't have an education, I couldn't get a job. So I was like, well, I can't get a job, so like I have to just create my job. I got in a car accident, I guess lucky or unlucky, when I was in a food delivery company, delivering food for, what is it called? TGI Fridays? Is that a place? That's that place, yeah. So I was a food delivery person for TGI Fridays, and I got in a car accident, and I got a contingency lawyer to represent me, and it was like a $30,000 settlement. And with that settlement, I got $11,000. And with $11,000, I moved to Los Angeles to become an entrepreneur. Which, like, if you really think about it now, like, it sounds fucking psychotic, because after taxes, it was like $6,000. So yeah, I used that to get an apartment in Venice Beach, 7th and Brooks. Not the best neighborhood now, definitely not the best neighborhood then. Like, we're talking 99. Like, that shit was fucking crazy. But I didn't care. I really loved it. And I like set up a little office, and I was like, I'm going to start like a record label. Catalyst Records, that's what it was called. I don't know. Like, it was just such a scrappy way of doing it. Like, I don't understand how that all happened, but I think the number one through line was that, like, I believed I understood something better than other people, and I would beg people to give me a shot, and then I worked really hard when they would give me that shot. I still think I'm like very lucky, because I'm gay and queer, and a lot of people like me are murdered and killed, and I'm like very present that I am lucky, that I'm like fortunate that a lot of people who are LGBTQ plus, who are brown, don't live to do any of the things I do. And so I'm always thinking about how grateful I am. I think that trauma is actually what gives you access to real dimensions of realities and conversations. And I think the people who have found ways to make peace with their trauma are people that can be trusted with influence and power. And so I'm like very interested in like developing myself in that way. And it's a journey, and I'm not there yet, but I'm in the journey. And I was like, if trauma is like our access to power and understanding and neutralizing it, it does seem to me like the majority of people in my life are like pretty fucking traumatized. Like, the more I talk about it, the more people are like, oh, like this happened to me and that happened to me. And like, I'm going through this thing or that thing. And I'm like, well, fuck, how come nobody's talking about this shit? Like, why is no one telling each other about like what level of grief and stress they're going through every day? I mean, my objective with doing everything that I'm doing right now is to platform amazing voices who are trying to figure out hard problems. And we live in a world that has a lot of hard problems. We're like at a place where we need shared mind share, and we need to like reimagine the future. How are we going to solve all these problems? And the only way that I can think of to do that is to communicate and to understand each other and learn each other and try to exchange ideas and come up with a new formula. And so I guess I'm on that journey anyways. And I thought, why don't I bring everyone else along with me? I know I'm like gonna ask a lot of controversial, hard questions and go into the bowels of very uncomfortable topics. And I just think other people might enjoy coming with me. And I don't know, I'm Iranian, we like doing things in social ways. So I thought like maybe we could all hang out and learn some stuff together, ask some questions and meet some people. I'm kind of just like hyper interested in being a very good listener and a very good communicator. And I'm going to just try to do it here on this fucking podcast in real time, as I normally do, because everything I do, I seem to want to do it in real time. And I think it'll be good to have people along for the ride who either want to do the same thing or are going to be willing to give great questions and feedbacks and thoughts and push the boundaries. Like, I don't think we're in a place right now where we need people who are willing to settle for the answers we have. We do not have any good solutions, any good leaders. Nothing is working the way that we want it to. Our systems are super broken. And I'm a believer that we need to like double down into our systems and not just rebuild the systems, but put up a new bench of leadership. And so I'm interested in being a part of that. I want to do it all. I want to be a killer capitalist, incredible advocate and activist, an amazing parent, really healthy, and madly in love with myself. I think that that's like a good goal. Thanks to my therapist, who I love the most in the entire planet.